Simon Cowell cultivated a formidable public persona, known for his acerbic critiques that resonated not only across America, but globally. This consistent projection of harsh judgment eventually led to a period where he faced similar public scrutiny regarding his own appearance and perceived arrogance. Once seen as self-satisfied, self-centered, and overly concerned with his image, he appeared to be losing control. From the outset, Cowell never sought universal approval. Rather, his cool, cutting, and often haughty demeanor became a powerful asset, drawing significant viewership and elevating him to the status of a game show titan. Programs under his influence were consistently popular and well-received. However, this reign of influence began to waver. This is the story of Simon Cowell, arguably the most demanding judge in the history of game shows, before he became an icon of judgment, a multimillionaire, and the owner of a sardonic smile that intimidated Hollywood. Simon Cowell, born Simon Philip Cowell on October 7, 1959, in Lambeth, London, grew up in an affluent family. His mother was a ballet dancer, and his father was an executive at EMI Music Publishing, a prominent company in the entertainment industry at the time. From an early age, Cowell displayed his naturally sharp and outspoken personality. In an interview, he recounted delivering his first harsh critique at the age of 4. His mother was wearing a stylish pink hat, and the young Cowell looked her directly in the eye and remarked that she resembled a poodle. This blunt, almost indifferent candor unexpectedly laid the groundwork for his future television empire. During his youth, Simon was not a model student. He disliked school, frequently faced disciplinary action, dropped out of college, and moved between various jobs. Witnessing his son's lack of direction, his father leveraged his connections to secure Simon an entry-level position in the mailroom at EMI Records in 1980. This was Cowell's first exposure to the inner workings of the music industry. After some time, his parents further assisted him in securing another role at EMI as a song plugger, responsible for introducing songs to the A&R department to persuade artists to record them, thereby revitalizing older tracks with new covers. However, Cowell's eventual transformation into a television mogul was not solely dependent on his father's assistance. He meticulously observed and learned the operational intricacies of the entertainment industry before venturing out independently. He co-founded his own record label, Fanfare Records, with his former EMI boss, Ian Burton. 3 years later, in 1986, his company achieved its first major success with the song So Macho by Sinita. Money began to flow in, and Cowell, then a young man, adopted an arrogant lifestyle, purchasing expensive cars and spending lavishly. "I thought everything was wonderful. I bought a house. I bought a Porsche, of course," he recounted. Yet, this early success was life short. In 1989, his company declared bankruptcy, unable to cover production costs and outstanding royalties owed to numerous producers and artists. Cowell personally bore the burden of these debts and filed for bankruptcy. At 29, an age when many individuals begin to establish stable careers, Simon Cowell lost everything. His Porsche was repossessed by creditors, and he returned to live with his parents, facing immense debt and profound humiliation. This personal setback, however, profoundly reshaped his worldview. The ignominy of financial ruin instilled in him a new philosophy. Failure was the most contemptible outcome, and power and wealth were the sole true measures of human worth. This moment marked the genesis of Simon Cowell's seemingly impenetrable public persona. He resolved to rebuild his career, starting as a talent scout for BMG. This marked the awakening of a formidable force in the reality television industry. Cowell's determination paid off by 1995. He successfully persuaded 2 actors from the television series Soldier Soldier, Robson Green and Jerome Flynn, to record Unchained Melody, a song they had performed on the show. The single became the best-selling record of the year, earning Cowell his first $1 million. Building on this success, he continued to expand his influence by signing popular groups such as Five and Westlife throughout the late 1990s. By 2001, Simon was prepared for a more significant gamble. Global television was seeing the nascent rise of talent search programs. Cowell developed Pop Idol in the UK in 2001, followed shortly by American Idol in the US in 2002. Simultaneously, he persuaded ITV to not only greenlight the show, but also accept him in the role of a judge. What accounted for the immense appeal of these programs? The answer lay not solely in the contestants' singing abilities, but in the judge himself, Simon Cowell, with his signature fitted V-neck shirt and impassive expression. Upon Pop Idol's launch in 2001, Cowell made an immediate and impactful impression. His blunt delivery, combined with a subtly acerbic wit, distinguished him from any other judge audiences had previously encountered. The show achieved overwhelming success. Subsequently, Fox acquired the rights, rebranded it as American Idol, and retained Cowell as a central figure in the judging panel. When American Idol premiered in June of 2002, this formula rapidly became a global phenomenon. By 2004, American Idol was the most-watched television program in the United States. At that time, Cowell wasn't merely portraying a difficult personality, he inherently possessed one. He simply articulated his unfiltered thoughts. He recognized a crucial vulnerability in the mass audience's psychology. People were drawn to beauty, but they were even more fascinated and easily provoked by disaster, humiliation, and conflict. Audiences in the 2000s craved genuine dramatic moments, and Cowell became the purveyor of this addictive content. Behind the scenes, Cowell collaborated with media consultant Max Clifford, who coached him on public speaking and encouraged him to amplify his Mr. Nasty persona. The more caustic Cowell became, the more audiences discussed him. The more discussion, the higher the viewership. Consequently, with each successive season, Cowell's judging became progressively harsher. He deliberately cultivated the image of Mr. Nasty, delivering often negative and subtly demeaning critiques. "I don't mean to be unkind, but you have one of the worst singing voices possibly in Miami. You have one of the worst voices I've ever heard. I'll give you a tip for the future." Each tear shed on stage, each expletive uttered backstage, was converted into revenue flowing into Cowell's pockets. He had effectively transformed criticism into a form of currency. The more ruthless he was, the higher the ratings and the more valuable the broadcasting rights. American Idol became a colossal money-making machine, attracting tens of millions of viewers weekly. However, Cowell's true power extended beyond mere viewership. It lay in the mandatory recording contracts offered to the show's winners. On numerous occasions, Cowell himself signed these contracts. In 2001, he established S Records as a joint venture with BMG. By 2002, the label was rebranded as Psycho Music. Soon, it became the default label for most champions and prominent contestants from the shows he produced. In essence, he not only judged talent, but also owned and managed it for those he deemed genuinely gifted. This is where the lines began to blur. On the surface, Cowell offered life-changing opportunities to unknowns. However, behind the scenes, he bound them with contracts that granted him near total control over their careers and public images. This became Cowell's distinctive business model. In 2004, Simon Cowell elevated his entertainment empire to a new level by launching the X Factor UK. This was no ordinary talent competition. It was a sophisticated industrial pipeline designed to mold entertainment stars. The scale of the auditions was maximized, accompanied by elaborately staged and dramatized personal backstories. Annually, thousands of young hopefuls flocked to this stage, driven by aspirations for a better life. No detail was left to chance, from fashion style and musical direction to media interaction skills. Everything passed through the strict vetting process of its architect. The general public was captivated by the dramatic transformations of ordinary individuals into confident professional artists. Yet what truly kept viewers glued to their screens was not solely the glamour of the winners. The defining characteristic of the X Factor was the synergy of two opposing extremes. While the public yearned for success stories, they were equally thrilled by onstage catastrophes. These disastrous performances, coupled with Cowell's trademark sharp, sarcastic, and often venomous remarks, became precisely what audiences craved. At its peak in 2010, The X Factor averaged approximately 14 million viewers per episode. The grand finale alone drew around 17 million viewers, making it the most-watched television program in the UK that year. Simon Cowell mistakenly believed that his veneer of power, his acerbic judgment, and the culture of critique he had engineered, along with massive ratings, would endure indefinitely. He believed he controlled the game. However, no matter how thick that veneer, no matter how many millions of dollars and glittering stage lights encased it, cracks eventually began to appear. The times were changing, and Cowell's emotion-grinding machine was poised to face judgment from the very masses it had once captivated. Cowell's gamble in America gradually faltered. The X Factor USA debuted in 2011 with an enormous budget and an all-star judging panel. In subsequent seasons, Cowell even enlisted Britney Spears and Demi Lovato. According to various sources, Britney Spears reportedly received around $15 million for just one season, hoping her star power would boost viewership. However, despite its celebrity lineup and lavish investment, the American version never achieved the same appeal as its UK original. For American audiences, Cowell's straightforward and cold judge persona was no longer novel. They had been watching it for years on American Idol. As Cowell's empire showed signs of vulnerability, a formidable rival emerged, delivering a critical blow to the old-fashioned television format, The Voice. The Voice revolutionized talent shows with its iconic spinning chairs. Coaches judged contestants solely on their vocal performance, without seeing their faces, knowing their build or their attire. This represented a fundamental respect for the human being and the artist. Entertainment culture had shifted from sensationalizing humiliation to fostering empathy and support. The emergence of this new trend caused the ratings of The X Factor and American Idol to plummet from their peaks to their depths. From drawing nearly 20 million viewers for their finales, viewership dwindled to just a few million. Audiences began to exercise their ultimate power, the power to forget. Viewership steadily declined season after season. By 2013, American Idol was quietly canceled. The X Factor's viewership also consistently fell, from over 17 million at its 2010 peak to approximately 5 million by 2018. Producers attempted various changes, launching The X Factor Celebrity and The X Factor The Band, and even planning an All-Stars version, but no project could bring audiences back. Behind the scenes, chaos escalated. Budgets were slashed and staff were laid off. Witnessing his throne shake, Simon Cowell entered a state of panic, realizing he was losing control. He frantically sought to salvage the situation by changing tactics. On television, a softer Cowell emerged, smiling more frequently, culminating in tears streaming down his face during emotional performances. While some appreciated this new image, many perceived it as a contrived act, an artificial attempt to boost ratings. The online community was particularly astute, immediately recognizing the desperation of a mogul attempting to keep pace with changing times. After 17 years of dominance, in 2021, The X Factor UK, the brainchild that defined Simon Cowell's career, was quietly retired without fanfare. However, the decline in numbers was not the whole story. The biggest fissure in Cowell's empire lay in the accusations and belated feelings of guilt from the very artists he had sculpted. Consider One Direction, the most successful boy band of the 21st century and the greatest source of pride in Simon Cowell's career. In 2010, all 5 members auditioned for The X Factor as solo artists, but failed to qualify for the next stage. It was Nicole Scherzinger who first proposed the idea of combining them into a group. Cowell immediately seized the opportunity. Audiences quickly fell in love with them, and Cowell promptly appropriated the narrative, positioning himself as the mastermind behind the entire concept. From that moment, One Direction was more than just a band. They became an industry blueprint. Harry, Liam, Niall, Zane and Louis underwent complete transformations. Their images were rebuilt, their styles defined, and they were coached and rebranded from head to toe. Despite finishing third, their talent, combined with Cowell's platform, propelled One Direction to incredible stardom. Their debut single, What Makes You Beautiful, shot straight to #1 in the UK. They also became the first British group in history to debut at #1 on the US Billboard 200 with their first album. They embarked on sold-out world tours, generating hundreds of millions of dollars and continuously breaking numerous records for touring revenue and sales. But as One Direction's fame grew, so did the immense pressure. Cowell subjected them to an extremely demanding schedule. Albums, tours, promotions, interviews, effectively pushing them to their limits with no time for rest. It was this relentless pace that eventually led to Zayn Malik's decision to leave the group.
The year 2015 marked a significant turning point, revealing the unsustainable and exploitative nature of the established system, which had exceeded human endurance. Liam Payne openly discussed his protracted struggle with alcoholism, profound mental health issues, and persistent dark thoughts over many years. He recounted feeling confined, leading to a reliance on the minibar within his living quarters as a coping mechanism, a pattern that reportedly continued for an extended period. The financial repercussions for the artists were immense, contrasting sharply with the substantial profits garnered by Simon Cowell. Despite One Direction generating over $1 billion in revenue throughout their career, band members consistently alluded to receiving only a negligible fraction of these earnings. In a controversial interview, Cowell candidly expressed regret for not having extracted even greater financial benefit. By the late 2010s, Simon Cowell's once dominant entertainment empire began to show distinct signs of decline. Psycho Music experienced a continuous exodus of its key artists, while the emergence of new, commercially successful stars became increasingly rare, indicating the depletion of his previously prolific talent-generating machine. Even artists launched through Cowell's various programs failed to achieve the monumental commercial success of earlier generations, leading to a noticeable absence of blockbuster hits and global phenomena. Concurrently, Psycho's influence within the music industry diminished rapidly. Cowell's television programs also revealed signs of obsolescence. The X Factor was progressively canceled in numerous countries, and even the established Got Talent brand, while still recognized, no longer commanded public discourse as it once did. The enterprise that had propelled Cowell to become one of the entertainment industry's most powerful figures was demonstrably losing momentum. This professional setback coincided with a far more severe personal crisis. In August 2020, while test riding a newly acquired electric bicycle in the courtyard of his Malibu villa, an injudicious twist of the throttle caused the 60-year-old to be thrown, landing forcefully on his back on the hard ground, followed by the heavy bicycle falling directly onto him. Hospital diagnostics confirmed 3 fractures in his spine, with the most critical fissure merely 1 millimeter from his spinal cord, necessitating a 6-hour surgical intervention to implant a metal rod for stabilization. Cowell later described the accident and subsequent recovery as profoundly challenging. The immediate physical incapacitation triggered a severe mental health crisis. In a podcast episode, Cowell uncharacteristically shed his usual arrogance, admitting the bitter truth that at 63 he sought psychological therapy for the first time in his life. This psychological distress subsequently manifested as a visible physical obsession, most notably in his altered facial appearance. This extensive reliance on cosmetic procedures, leading to visible disfigurement, was rooted in a profound fear of aging. Initially involving Botox injections to smooth wrinkles, he progressed to dermal fillers to achieve a plumper, more youthful appearance in his cheeks. The issue stemmed not merely from the practitioner's skill, but from a cascade of effects following his accident. Medically and physiologically, to aid spinal recovery and reduce pressure on his back post-surgery, Cowell adopted a stringent lifestyle change, embracing a vegan diet, walking and cycling, resulting in a weight loss exceeding 20 kilograms. While beneficial for his overall health, this dramatic weight reduction proved disastrous for his facial aesthetics. As the natural subcutaneous fat layer diminished, his skin thinned, causing previously subtle filler placements to become prominently visible as uneven, disproportionate bulges. Upon reviewing family photographs with his son Eric, Cowell recognized the extent of his cosmetic alterations.
In distress and seeking to regain control over his facial appearance, he hastily underwent procedures to dissolve all existing fillers. However, this powerful figure then made another critical error, opting for further invasive surgeries, including a facelift and blepharoplasty to tighten sagging skin around his eyes. The ultimate outcome was the widely scrutinized and often described wax figure appearance observed in a 2022 promotional video. For years, Cowell built his empire on sharp critiques and public humiliation of others. He now finds himself subjected to intense public scrutiny, raising questions about the fairness of such treatment given his own past conduct.